I spent 25 years in the Navy after graduating from the Naval Academy. Most of that time was in special operations. I was a Navy SEAL before too many people knew what that was. And I was okay with that. Then I retired to Monterey because my wife and I had a house here. And the timing was good because the Naval Postgraduate School was in the process of setting up and building something called the Center for Civil Military Relations. And they were looking for people like me who had experience in the military, but also a lot of contact with the civilian side. I have to admit it was challenging, although going from active duty Navy to a civilian at the postgraduate school was not too difficult because I was in the fortunate position of having one foot still in the Navy. So it was really ideal, I think, for me in terms of a second career. Ccmr's mission is to help other governments develop the capacity to govern better, especially those governments in the developing world. The foundation is the promotion of a system of democratic civilian control of military forces. When the Combating Terrorism Fellowship Program was established in 2002, Ccmr was the first institution to develop course material because we recognized right away that nothing depends on healthy civil-military relations more than fighting terrorism. At first, the quality of the participants that we got from around the world was not all that high, but we've seen a steady increase in the sophistication of our audiences since then. And I think we can attribute that to continuing efforts of the United States government and other governments in gathering these audiences and helping them think through their own problems, especially regarding terrorism. So the collective effect over time has been quite substantial. But when I was in the Navy, terrorism was really considered a nuisance issue, and the military had a very small and focused role in countering it. And then after I left the Navy, several years later, we had the attacks on 9/11, and ever since then, terrorism has been seen correctly as a national security threat. And the military role in countering terrorism has become substantial and extends into lots of different areas where it wasn't before. We base most of our programs on the development of better strategies. And for fighting terrorism, the only strategies that work are the ones that bring most of the institutions of government to bear on the problem, acting collectively and in a coordinated way. In terms of the regions, it's even more important for governments and their security institutions to work in a coordinated fashion. So interagency and regional approaches are the basis of all of our programs. Since terrorism is such a diverse threat, requiring interagency and regional responses, the leaders and thinkers don't come from just the defense departments or the militaries or even the police institutions. The diverse nature of the threat brings in virtually everyone in the government as a player in devising the best solutions to the problem. This is new. This is something that's challenging everywhere, but including in the United States. I can't say that surprised is the right word. because when I was in the Navy, I worked with a lot of these governments, and I knew they all had quality people. I guess you could say I'm grateful that these governments are providing lots of those quality people to our programs and other similar programs that the United States administers. If I've been disappointed at all, it's been because we haven't had enough civilians in our courses, and we continue to try to improve that record as well. That's an easy one to answer. It's working with and getting to know professionals from all over the world. You quickly come to realize that everybody wants the same thing. They want peace, family, and enough resources to enjoy them. I think the biggest one is the notion that the United States doesn't have to worry about what happens in the rest of the world. Globalization has brought us many good things, but it's also brought us a few bad things that we didn't used to have to worry about. Terrorism is certainly one of those. The Combating Terrorism program is what we call functional and worldwide. The Africa program is regional and focused. Ccmr has both kinds of programs, and they work best when functional program managers work together with regional program managers to serve the needs of our partners around the world. These sorts of programs don't take up a large portion of the budget anyway. I believe that Ccmr and its sister institutions should be funded at a much higher level than they are. I think Ccmr is a bargain at twice the price because we're plugging into real people in the next generation of leaders in about 150 countries. I believe in the institution. I think the value of strong, capable institutions is the biggest lesson that I've learned and that I try to pass on to our audiences. Institutions are more important than individuals. Individuals are assigned to institutions temporarily, and we encourage them to try to improve and strengthen those institutions as much as they can before they leave. But it's the institution that stays. We have three types of programs: bilateral, regional, and what we call global. The global programs are conducted here in Monterey and are sourced from around the world. Regional programs are conducted in the region in a particular capital city. And bilateral programs are when we engage just participants, officials from one other country. Bilateral programs are important where we have enough resources to focus on one country. But really regional programs are more important in the fight against terrorism. Individual countries are too small. The world is too large. If civilization is going to win against terrorism, it's going to have to be in the regions. I've always said that relationships are more important than events, and that's even more true today. If any government wishes to be successful, they're going to have interagency, holistic approaches to the problem. And that doesn't work without strong, trust-based relationships between and among officials from across the spectrum of government. That also applies to governments working with each other. Unless trust is established across government lines or across borders, then nothing significant will really happen. It was very rewarding for me personally, but I think it's having a book that we call a textbook is important, because if you believe in your ideas, then sooner or later you have to write them down. And writing, I've learned, makes you a better teacher. We give all of our audiences these books. The CT book now, the second book, which is focused on maritime security, will come out in a few months, and it will also be issued like the other one. We encourage our audiences to read these books and then pass them on to people who didn't have the opportunity to attend our classes. And of course, the books are available to the general reader on Amazon.com and in libraries. I think in Africa particularly, the U.S. should be doing more of what Ccmr does. Establishing trust-based relationships with officials who can really rise to positions of great responsibility in their governments and fight terrorism successfully, as well as other transnational threats. I can't say enough about the value of education. Ideas are more important and more powerful than weapons, especially in the long run.